Good morning to everyone on this presentation. I'm Pat Pagirathan, Senior Manufacturing Consultant, JD Edwards at NetSuite, and today we are going to talk about rebates in NetSuite. So let me quickly go over the agenda. What we're going to talk about is what is a rebate, rebate terms and definitions, what are the features, setting up rebate agreements and details, and processing accruals and claims, what are the primary advantages, and at the end we'll have a short demo of customer rebates and vendor rebates on purchases. Okay, so typically what is a rebate? Now, a return of part of the original payment for some service or merchandise, or a partial refund. So in this example, here we can see there's a cashback service or a refund or a cashback. So let's say you installed a software in a certain company and the charge of the software installation service was $5,000, and then you got a rebate of $500 after the payment was made. There's a bail-in rebate or a $500 credit for a later purchase from that customer. Okay, or it's a refund, or it could be just a plain cashback. So it's basically a return part of an original payment. You can also have a vendor credit, so that can be applied to reduce the amount owed to a vendor. So somebody purchases something from a vendor, let's say Amazon, and then you find out that one of them was defective, one of the products was defective, so that you get a vendor credit. Or let's say you order in bulk or in a volume, and then you get a vendor credit for that, okay? So the refund, a certain amount of money via credit memo reduces amount owed by a customer, can be applied to customers' future or open invoices. So typical credit memos, for future customer purchases, we can reduce the amount owed. It's basically reduce the amount owed to the customer, owed by a customer, to deduct a certain amount as from a total. Okay. So these are the typical rebates terms and definitions. Now, this could be applicable to big box customers, big box vendors, typically mom and pop customer or vendors. There's several ways of doing it. So for example, it could be like torch lights that you sell to Home Depot or Amazon. It could be air conditioners, it could be tires, July 4th rebate on tires. So there's different opportunities, and it's a very versatile and very good system of providing credits and refunds, okay? So what is a customer rebate in NetSuite? This is calculated on sales transactions. It could be a credit or a refund created in the claims process for the customer of the transaction. Now, keep in mind, the claims process is very strong in NetSuite, and it's optional. You can use it or you don't have to use it, okay? Vendor rebate on purchases. This is on a purchasing transaction like a purchase order. It can be claimed by a third party or the vendor on the purchase transaction. So for example, the invoice receivable for the customer representing the vendor. So it could be an invoice for the customer representing the vendor, or a vendor credit for future purchases. So basically, it could be on the sales order side or purchase order side, okay? And also it can be on the vendor rebate on sales. So these are calculated on sales transactions based on a variety of cost bases claimed from the vendor or manufacturers. So there's a third party named on the agreement on the condition that the purchase items were sold, okay? So it's just three primary different types of rebates in NetSuite, but you can define more if needed. And then here we're gonna move into features. So basically, manufacturing and distribution industries prefer rebates over point of sales discounts because they ensure the purchases are compensated based on performance. So vendor performance is tracked, And also, like when you're doing wholesale distribution, if you order in bulk or in volume, you can get good discounts based on the amount purchased. It typically requires a suite solution or a suite app of rebates, which needs to be installed with NetSuite. And this provides the ability to set up rebate agreements and calculate and report rebates on sales and purchase transactions. So it's a simple setup, and then there's different features like multiple rebates can be applied to a transaction line, and the calculated rebate amount can be viewed on the transaction line. So by installing that suite app of rebates, you can see how the accrual is calculated on a sales order or purchase order line, or it could be a vendor bill or an invoice. Okay. Automations and claims and accrual processing. So this is a pretty automated process, although it can be run manually too. So the customer or the vendor, if we want to review the claims and accruals for them, there's different options of using it. We can run a script automatically to process these accruals or claims. So there's different opportunities here. So the rebate claim process aggregates all of the calculated rebate transactions for an agreement and creates a claim to the vendor or gives credit, refund, or payment to the customer, okay? These are robust and claims on demand, and you can recalculate rebates. So for example, there's an option on the sales order, purchase order, on the invoice or the vendor bill. Let's say we have to modify something, like the quantity or the amounts, or we have to backdate something because the agreement changed. So let's say the agreement was just for the July 4th weekend, but now they said, no, you know what, we're gonna extend it past July 31st for some reason. So then you have the option of recalculating every year, okay? Here are some typical examples of how we go about rebates. We could have a $200 cashback on 4 tires of Goodyear tires. Maybe there's a mail-in rebate for air conditioners if you buy the whole set of cold cash on the carrier. 11% rebate on everything. Or you can have a save up to $50 on a classification of speakers. So let's say you buy 3 speakers, one's 20, one's 30, one's 50. And then based on this classification, you have different items specified it and you get $50 off of that total, okay? So people have an incentive. And then there's the volume or tiered rebates based on the quantity or the amount you order. You can say for baby diapers, 0 to 100, give like $50 discount. 101 to 200, give like $150 discount. So basically there's different ways of setting this up. And like we're talking about features, there's classification on items and entities with their exclusions. So customers, vendors, and items can be identified in the rebate agreement. And we're gonna go over this agreement in detail. And we're gonna see how we can set up items, entities belonging to classification. And if you wanna exclude a certain item, customer or vendor on a rebate, you can. So for example, you can set up hundreds of items going to a customer or vendor on that agreement. If you want to do an exclusion rule, you can set up that, okay? And another cool feature is the accruals reversal. So when you process a claim, you can reverse the accrual journal entries, and these are automatic, okay? You can also facilitate automation and creation of these accrual journal entries based on what was recorded on the transaction. So on the sales order or purchase order, if let's say there was an accrual generated for that line item, that basically is going to be on your accrual journal. Then you have a flexible claim generation and claim reversal processing. Optional process on the credit memo, refund, or invoice. You can consolidate all purchases from a customer for that claim period, okay? You have a number for the claim. When you generate a claim, it provides you a claim number, and that closes your claim cycle. Tiered rebate agreements, the very popular one in rebates based on the customer side, if it's a sales order on a customer rebate, or if it's on the vendor side, if it's a vendor rebate on purchases, you can have tiering. So basically $0 to $100, 5% off. $101 to $200, 10% off. Okay. $201 to $1,000, 25% off. So you can tier your rebate amounts, and that's a very powerful mechanism used in NetSuite. Okay, we're also going to say that we have a save search, and people familiar with save searches and queries, there's a save search just for gross profit based on accruals. And when we go to a small demo, we will see how these gross profits are captured. Okay, the solution includes fields to report the impact for each line and the sales in total. So when vendor rebates and customer rebates apply to the same item, the solution considers the effect of both. Okay, so that's a key vital indicator of that. And then we have contracts. So every rebate has to go through what is called a rebate agreement or a contract with conditions for eligibility. So for example, like a time frame, is it just for July 4th weekend, or is it just for Labor Day weekend? Is it just for Christmas or Thanksgiving? And then you can classify vendors based on high volume vendor, big box vendor, high volume customer, big box customer. Was it a mom and pop small customer? Qualifying items or hook item classifications can be performed. You can do calculation logic too. So there's a remittance type, cash or credit, calculation type, and you can define GL accounts for claims and accruals. And we'll get into detail as we go through these features. Priority and combination, if there are two priorities and one agreement is priority 1 and the next agreement is priority 2, then the priority 1 is considered, okay? And if it's stackable and both are priority 1, then both are applied to that transaction line. So priority and combination is very critical when you set up the agreement. And you can apply this to different item types. It doesn't have to be just be inventory items. It could be non-inventory, inventory assembly, kits, lot number, serialized, dropship items, special orders, or it could be matrix items, child items in the matrix, not the parent items. So for example, if it's a shirt, which is the parent item, but you have different colors and sizes, which could be medium, extra large, double XL, green, white, and blue, all those can be categorized under child matrix items, okay? And these are some of the key features. And moving on with more features, we have calculation methods. Like we were talking about monthly volume rebates. This could be based on the dollar amount. So we define a percentage for the first $1,000, you have 2%, $1,001 to $3,000 is 2.5%. From $3,000 to $4,000 is 3.5%. And anything greater than $4,001 is 5.2%. So these are just an example of tier amount incentives based on sales amount or purchased amounts. Flat dollar amount. So let's say you purchased an air conditioner and you got, let's say, a $5 rebate. Okay, it's a flat fee. Or you can do a percentage fee, 10% off the sales price or purchase price of that air conditioner. Or is it a fixed cost? Amount between amount paid and amount charged is refunded. And for customer rebates, the guaranteed profit percentage. The purchaser is guaranteed the rebate percentage is marginal profit. Now keep in mind that your rebates is subsidiary based. So you have to have a subsidiary. Typically, if it's one world or non-one world, it can be used. But if you're using a one world environment, it's going to force you to put a subsidiary for that agreement. And here are some examples. So for example, our solar system, you invest $20,000 and you get federal tax credit of $6,000, and then you get state solar tax rebate of $6,000. So your net investment is $8,000, but you'll save over $30,000 over 25 years. And then there's different tiering. You can basically define silver, gold, or platinum. So every day for volume buyers, you can put 3% discount or rebate, or you could put 5% gold customers. Sales are over 30,000 per quarter. for sales over 45,000 per quarter. And that's a platinum 7% off. And then there's an example of brackets and discounts based on the units planted. And these are all incentives to give cash back so that you entice or attract customers or vendors. Okay. So typically looking at setting up rebate agreements. Rebate agreements are defined to provide instructions for calculating rebates on transactions, for handling accruals, and for processing claims. So the key fields, we went over some of them already. One of the things is the type of rebate, agreement status. Type of rebate, we said customer, vendor rebate on purchase or on sales. Agreement status, when you create a rebate, it puts it at pending approval. So once you approve it, only then the rebate gets recognized for that item and vendor or customer. If you do not approve the rebate, you could process a purchase order or sales order, but it's not going to pick up that rebate agreement. And then you have to definitely define a start and end date, a subsidiary, a currency. So it's a good practice, a best practice, to define the currency of the rebate along with the sales order so that there's basically the same currency. Stackable and priority. So basically if it's two tied together for the same priority, there's two rebates on a sales order line. If they're both priority one and they're set up as stackable, then it should pick both of them. And then if there's a claim against that already, let's say it's a volume-based tiered group rebate, yes, there'll be a last claim generation date against that. Any consecutive rebates against that same item will basically recalculate the claim for you. Okay. Eligibility is based on rebate calculation type, tier type, default percentage or default amount. Accruals, there's an accruals section on the rebate, and we'll get into this when we get into the demo too. You have to define your account. So basically, when you configure your rebate types, you can put a default account, but on the rebate agreement itself, you can override the expense or income account, accrued payable account for customer rebates, or the accounts receivable vendor rebate on purchase or sale. So there's different ways of updating these accounts. And on the claim sections, you can use, are you going to say, is it a credit for the claim or is it a refund? Credit as in, is it a vendor credit? Or is this going to be a refund like an invoice for the customer representing the vendor? So the transaction types, you have to define a claim item. This can typically be a non-stock item or other charge item, which will be on the claim, okay? And then there are emails sent at time of accruals entry, or creation or view of claims, generation of claims. So anytime you create an accrual, you create your claim, these emails can be generated to be sent out to the accounts receivable department or the finance department or the customer or the vendor. And when the final credit memo or invoice is ready to view, then you can send out emails. So this is all cool tools which are already available in NetSuite without any customizations. Okay. And then setting up the rebate agreements. The agreement details hold the details that will serve as basis for the eligibility to rebates. So on the details, the detail is very important. So you can't approve an agreement without having the agreement details filled out. So you need to set up the vendor or customer specific rebate, or is it the item or item classification? So for example, you have a torchlight, and basically there's 4 different torchlights. So you have a classification that's saying this is a torch kit, and within that kit you have 4 different types of torches. So that's under a classification. If you change anything to that classification, add a item to that classification, then you don't have to make any changes to that agreement detail because it's already in the classification, okay? You can exclude certain items. Price pass-through fields are based on vendor rebates on a sales order. So if anything is purchased based off of a sales order, then you have to define the percentage or amounts off of that sales order amount that we need to provide as a refund. So there's a suitelet that needs to be installed, and this is typically to define the rebate eligibility. And it's based on what we just spoke about. Like, do we want to use items, vendors, customers based off of a saved search? So there's a saved search, you can define which customers receive this rebate, okay? And then you can define the sublist from the rebate agreement parent record. There's different navigation parts to get to this. You can get to rebates via the rebate management setup, rebate agreement details new, or you can do a CSV import. So rebates allows CSV imports too when you're processing, hundreds or thousands of these records. Next piece of the presentation we're going to talk about is accrual processing. Accrual processing is a feature you can use. Again, you don't have to use it. Accrual amount is determined based on the nature of the rebate. For example, it's a line amount or tier-based rebate. So there's a sales order line, and we'll go through this in the demo. If it's a customer rebate on the sales order line, or if it's a vendor rebate on a sales order, you will have a sales order line with that accrual amount based on what we define. If it's a fixed percentage, is it a cash basis on a certain total amount on the sales, or is it a tier-based rebate based on the dollar amount and percentage for each tier, okay? You can also automatically schedule the accrual scripts to run, or you can manually create the accrual on the agreement detail after the sales order is processed. So, for example, you can have a policy in place, say, do it once a week, do it every day, or do it end of the month. If it's volume-based, maybe there's 10 different sales orders that it gets applied to, or it's 100 different sales orders that it gets applied to. So there are different options to control it. Status is pending processing upon creation, just like we said before, and processing and completed later. Rebate agreement for journal entries, rebate type, agreement currency, accrual amount after the save, accrual date, accrual period. So there's different things that happen when you create an accrual. Initially, it says it's created, but then you have to generate the accrual to actually create that journal entry for that accrual amount on that sales order line, okay? Then we go to claims processing. Again, just like how we said about accruals, claims processing is optional. Claims processing generates credit memos or customer refunds for customer rebates. Claim rebates process generates bill credits or invoice for vendor rebates. Rebate transaction details that are referenced for the claim are updated with the claim generation log reference. So you can have a generation log, which you can manually create, or you can automate it. So this one, basically, if there's a fixed percentage or fixed amount, then there's a next claim. So for the next transaction, the next claim is processed. But if you have tiered-based agreements, there will be a recalculation of the rebate transaction details. So it also keeps a log of what the last claim generation date was, so you can process these future claims, okay? There's a claim log for our audit trail. It has the claim generation status, the remittent type, the claim date, and then the total claim amount. Generating the claim, generated transactions will be linked to the transaction log, claim generation date, and we'll have the reversal of the accrual. Now, the reversal of the accrual would be automated. So when you generate the claim after reviewing it and you're okay with it, let's say it's a credit memo, okay? You're okay with the credit memo, it generates the claim, automatically it reverses out that accrual amount. If it was $100 accrual, it reverses it because the actual claim is not the accrual amount, but it's the actual percentage or the volume rebate or the exact amount, okay? Advantages, accrual processing against agreements have automated journal entry processing based on scheduled scripts or manual creation of these accruals. You can review the transaction lanes dynamically. This is basically when you change the quantity on the sales order or purchase order, you could dynamically review what your accrual is going to be. This is one of the features which a lot of software companies have failed, where NetSuite has succeeded on. Okay, and the tiering of sales amounts, volume rebates. So you can define a forecasted target amount on volume tiers, and say, let's say in tier 1 is where we want the accrual to hit, but the actual claim maybe happened in tier 3. So you can define marginal or linear volumes to say where exactly we need to hit the claim on. So when you do the claim, it actually reflects the true amount that is rebated, but the accrual is based on a forecasted amount or forecasted target. And that's what we're saying here. Claims can be defined on a date range. If there's an existing claim, it can be reversed automatically and consolidated on a credit memo, invoice, or refunded. You can have save searches for the gross profit on accruals. That's a cool feature. We can also have a document folder. So any PDFs of the invoices, credit memos, vendor credits, which are sent to customers or vendors, all of these are captured in the documents folder. This is all in the vanilla NetSuite, and there's no modifications. If at all, you'd have to probably just modify some of the roles or create custom roles, but that's minimal. To a minimal, we need any customizations for rebates. Okay. So next, we are going to get into a short demo here, and I am going to open up NetSuite, and we are going to go into customer rebates. And at this point, we were talking about 3 different types of rebates: customer rebates on sales, vendor rebates on purchases, or vendor rebate on sales. We'll go through the first 2 of them: the customer rebates on sales orders and vendor rebates on purchases. So customer rebates on sales, let's take an example. Here we have tires, Michelin, July 4th. So I'm going to just pick that. And if you notice this rebate agreement, it pulls up initially, this one has an agreement status. When you initially create it, it puts pending approved. In this case, I already have it approved. You have to define and approve it, okay, before this becomes an active rebate. Agreement name, you want to give a unique name. You might want to give something which actually defines what this rebate is about. Is it about the July 4th weekend with initiative around tires rebate on Michelin for the July 4th, or is it a Labor Day weekend discount or rebate? Contract reference, here you can define like a characters or easy way to identify when you have a suite script or something. Okay. Also, the ID is used in suite script. Rebate type, like we said, this is a customer rebate. You can always add more than the out-of-the-box solution. You can add more to this. Okay. Agreement start date and end dates, we defined. There's a subsidiary. Now, this is where I said if it's one word, you have to give a subsidiary. Agreement currency, best practice is to have the same currency on your rebate agreement along with the currency on what's on the transactions. So transactions must be created in this currency for the rebate agreement to be associated, okay? Priority, like we said, if there's 2 rebates on the same customer sales order line, we have to, if we want both agreements to be applied, we have to say priority 1 and they're stackable, okay? If there's already a claim against it, it'll tell you what the last claim generation date is. Next section on the rebate agreement is the eligibility. And we're looking at, is all the entities applicable? Maybe not. So if you say all the entities, then you have to check this or no. Is there a specific unit of measure? Is there a rebate calculation method, tiered amount, or is this just a fixed percentage? So there's different ways of setting up the rebate calculation method. Tier type, so again, against the tiered amount on the customer, it could be marginal or it could be linear. So if it's linear, let's say you have 3 tiers, it will automatically go to the highest bracket, which is probably the 3rd tier, okay, when it calculates the actual rebate. But if it's linear, it's going to calculate at each bracket. If there's a stop in each bracket, it's going to deduct that amount. So a linear is probably tending towards only the highest bracket, but the marginal is going to go back into each bracket and deduct it, okay? Rebate calculation type is fixed. Is this based on the line amount? Okay, so here it's based on the sales order line amount. Default percentage, default amount, you can define those. In this case, it's the percentage. If I want, I can define that here, or I can just define it on my volume-based rebate. Then you have a price pass-through section. This is important when it's a vendor rebate on a sales order. So here we're talking about customer rebates on a sales order. So a price pass-through type, okay, is basically vendor rebate on sale chose between percentage or value to indicate how the price pass-through will be calculated. So is it based on a percentage or a amount on the sales order price, okay? And this is just a simple setup feature here on the rebate agreement, okay? There's an accrual section. So like I was saying, if your company wants your finance department to process accruals manually or on a scheduled script on a scheduler, you have to define your accounts. Where do you want the debits to go and where do you want the credits to go? The accrued expense income is probably going to be a debit account, and then your accrued payable is your credit account. So how do you want your account set up? I mean, this is more to be set up by the accounts receivable department. You can also define your claims. So in this case, we're going to talk about a credit, like a credit memo. So transaction type search for claim. So keep in mind here, you have to be careful. You can't put up multiple transactions here. Typical for a sales order is the invoice. Based off of the invoice, what got sold and what's the money owned by the customer, that's where you would get a credit. If you had chosen sales order also here, it's going to give you twice the amount, and we don't want twice the amount, okay? Claim item, based on the PowerPoints we were talking about for, this was non-inventory or other charge type, okay? So you can define what the proof of concept item is. And then which account should the claims receivable go to, okay? So after we define the agreement, we have to define the agreement detail. You can always click on the button here to create a new agreement detail. You can define the vendors, classify them, customers, you can classify them. So for example, here I'm just defining one customer, but if you have, big box customers and you say big box is the classification, under big box, you can define Amazon, Home Depot, Walmart, Target, and then you can put all those items, you can put them in on an individual basis, or you can classify them based on the item classification. And there's a calculation method and a calculation type, okay? So these are important for agreement detail. Now, since we're doing a volume-based agreement here, volume tier for Michelin tires, tier level of 0, $4 to $8, 10%, $9 to $20, 20%, $21 to $30 is 30%. So I also define a forecast target. So my accrual is going to base off of this forecast target on the sales order line. But the actual rebate amount, in this case, it's always going to be hitting the third tier, okay? But keep in mind when it's a marginal tier type, it's going to go into the first two tiers and remove those amounts. And we'll go into that when we actually see the sales order, okay? So those are the key pieces of this. Next, I will show you a sales order example. And let's pull up a sales order line where we actually have this rebate set up, okay? So let's go into transactions, sales, enter sales orders list, leave. And here we have, let's say, sales order 368. There's a sales order here for Amazon Seattle. I just clicked on that. It's processing. It's going to pull up the sales order for Amazon in Seattle. What have they ordered? Okay, they've ordered a tier Michelin for quantity of 10. the rate was 100 and the amount was 1,000. So let me go ahead and edit the sales order. I want to show you some key features about rebates here on the sales order itself. Here, if we go into the line item, and there's a feature here which is invoked by a suite app for rebates. If we just click on this show customer agreements, it shows the accrual amount. So in this case, the accrual was based on our forecast target of $100. So it's hitting that 100 based on that 10%. Okay, so $1,000, 100 is 10%. So it put that customer rebate amount. Okay, it did create a transaction line. So if we go into rebates, we'll go into the invoice. So if we go into the related records and we go into the invoice, since when we were going through the demo for the agreement, we set up the invoices where we want to capture the rebate info. So we go into the rebate info here. Notice here it created a record to say this is the rebate agreement detail or rebate transaction for tier Michelin with a quantity. And it also tells you which rebate agreement detail it was, okay? So this is a pretty cool feature here. And now what we can do is basically go into our accrual. So here, let's go into the menu navigation here, rebate agreement, and let's go back to the tiers Michelin July 4th. And here, if we go into our accruals, if you notice here, there was an accrual journal entry, which I manually created, okay? Now on this, if I click on this journal entry, it should show me my debit and credit for that accrual amount, okay? Let's see, it's taking a while. Okay, so here if we scroll down, this is debits to the other expense rebate expense account and a credit to the accounts payable accrued expenses. So this $100 got accrued, okay? So that I'm just trying to show you what we accomplished by that sales order transaction line on the invoice. And now here, you can also have a save search. On the save search, it basically tells you what the gross profit based on accrual was. So here was the total sales order amount of $1,000. The extended cost was $600. The gross profit was $400 before we applied the rebate. Now, the total customer rebate was $100 on the accrual, and then the gross profit amount after rebates was $300. So after the rebate was applied, it was only 30%. Okay, so you may want to keep that in mind. There's cool save searches out of the box which are there. You can tweak it to your needs. Okay. And any questions so far, please take it to the end of this discussion. We can talk about it. And the next piece we were going to talk about is the claims itself. So we have a claim generation log, which you can manually create, or you can have a system automatically create this. So here, if we look at the claim, like we were saying, there's different statuses. There's the rebate agreement that it's associated with. Is it tiered? Yes. What's the subsidiary? What is the total claim amount? So notice we said $100 in the accrual, but when we created the claim, it reverses that $100 accrual journal entry. And if you go into the view claim detail, I'm just going to show you what the details of the claim look like. And if you notice, it created an invoice to the customer representing the vendor, okay? So the customer representing the vendor will get a invoice amount for $296.80, okay? And the reason, or how did it calculate that $296.80? We said 30% for tier 3, but then it goes and calculates for the bracket 1 and bracket 2, and then deducts that amount from there. So since it was marginal, and then that's how you got 296.8 and not 300, okay? Okay, and then let's go back to our claim. Okay, so here again, claim transaction created, claim rebate transaction detail updated, accruals transactions. If we look at this, it tells you that there was a reversing journal entry for $100, okay? And this is approved for posting. These are some cool features. The next setup we're gonna see in this demo is about the vendor rebate on purchases. So let me go back to our rebates again, rebate agreement. And we are going to look at a vendor rebate on a air conditioner. So here, let's look at this. And on this, we have the same details, but we're not doing the tiering here. What we're doing is we're doing a refund on a vendor bill. So on a vendor bill, we're doing a refund. And on this, we have a claims receivable account, a claim item, okay? And here we're going to look at what's the rebate amount, okay? And the rebate amount is $500 for the air conditioner. So if you ordered 2 air conditioners, then you get $1,000, okay? Aha, so maybe you get better discounts with fixed percentage. I mean, it depends. I mean, if you're a big box customer, you want the volume rebates. If the price of the product is high, like air conditioner, maybe the cost of the product itself is, you know, $5,000 or $10,000. So automatically, you can't really offer a volume discount on expensive products. So here, maybe you define a flat dollar amount or a percentage amount, okay? And I'm gonna go into the purchase order itself real quick. Let's see, on the purchase order, we do have quantity of 2. The vendor is CenturyLink, and then we have a rate of 3,000, so it's 6,000. But then the total rebate amount is 1,000 because we have 2 of those air conditioners. By hooking up our suite app, if I click on this, the show purchase agreements, it tells me what the rebate agreement is, vendor rebate air conditioner, $500 times $2,000. Okay, so the rebate accrual is for $1,000. So if I go back to my agreement here, there's an accrual for 1,000. Okay, if I'll open up my journal entry real quick. Okay, so there is our debit to the accounts receivable account and credit to our other expense rebate expense account. Okay, so if I go back, and here I can go ahead to my claim, and here on our claims, we did create a claim for this rebate agreement based on the purchase order line. And in this case, we do have an invoice, okay? In the last case, we had a credit memo, but here we have a invoice for the customer representing the vendor, okay? And then we can basically see that amount here, okay? So, I mean, again, you don't have to have a claim, but it's best practice to track what the claim amount was. And this gives you a lot of traceability. It tells you what the date of the transaction was, when was the claim period based on the claim agreement, okay? So there's a lot of controls in place with the audit facilities, and also it tells you exactly who did the transaction or which customer or vendor is in charge. So any questions, please let me know. I'm gonna say thank you for being patient with our demo here. And if there's any questions, please raise them to Brittany, and she'll be more than welcome to raise that to me. Thank you.